Welcome to Kunzy Podcast English, where your English learning journey becomes vibrant, relatable, and truly inspiring. Have you ever wondered if you could learn to read, speak, and think in English using just one story? Today, we're going to explore a special method, how to use a single story to make English the most natural part of your life. Don't go anywhere, because the secret to breaking language barriers and mastering English is waiting for you right here. The problem isn't that you lack vocabulary, it's that you've never truly used the words you've learned. You think the reason you can't speak English is because you haven't learned enough vocabulary? You believe that if you just had 500, maybe 1,000 more words, you'd speak fluently? The truth is, that's not the problem. What you're missing isn't more words. What you're missing is the ability to use the words you already know. Think about it. You've learned words like important, because, different, sometimes, try, want, right? But if I asked you right now to say one simple sentence with each of those words, without looking at your notes, without using Google, could you do it? How many of those words can you actually use instantly and naturally? Not many, right? And that is the root of the problem. We don't need more words. We need to learn how to use fewer words, but use them well. Just like a great chef doesn't need 1,000 ingredients. They only need 10 to create something amazing. A good English learner isn't someone who knows a lot of words. It's someone who can say a lot with only a few. You might know 2,000 words, but if you can't use even 200 of them to describe your day, ask for directions, or open your heart to a friend, then the other 1,800 words don't really matter. They're just sitting there silent in your memory, never coming alive as real language. Here's the truth. We learn vocabulary to remember it, but we don't learn vocabulary to use it. You memorize with flashcards. You highlight words in books. You underline them. You circle them. But have you ever used that new word to tell a real story? To write a true sentence about your life? To create a paragraph that carries your real emotions? Probably not, right? And that's why you keep learning but still can't speak. Because you don't need more knowledge. What you need is the skill to turn knowledge into action. That is what you're missing. Native speakers can talk all day using just a few hundred words. Why? Because they use those same words over and over until it becomes instinct. But you scroll through thousands of new words every month, but you never stay with one word long enough to truly make it your own. So don't start by learning more. Start by using again. Take a familiar word and use it in a new way. Put it into a real sentence from your daily life. Say it out loud, with feeling. Don't let vocabulary stay quiet in your notebook. Make it come alive. And once you start doing that, you'll finally realize you don't need more words. You already have enough. You've just never truly used them. One story, one world. A single story can hold an entire world of vocabulary, grammar, and emotions. Imagine that every time you learn a new word or a new sentence pattern, you don't just memorize it. You weave it into a story that you care about, that touches your heart, that connects with your life. Stories aren't just entertainment. They are living, breathing classrooms where language comes alive. When you focus on learning through stories, suddenly, vocabulary stops being random, disconnected words floating in your mind. Instead, words become characters, feelings, and actions that build up a meaningful narrative. You don't just learn the word run, you see it in the story of a child running to catch a bus, or the excitement of chasing a dream. You don't just learn the past tense. You live through the events that happened yesterday, told in a way that makes sense and stays with you. This is the power of stories. They create connections. They help your brain link new language to real experiences and emotions. And when language is connected to your feelings, it becomes easier to remember and, most importantly, easier to use. Suddenly, grammar rules aren't confusing lessons. They are tools to tell your story clearly. New vocabulary isn't a list of isolated words. It's your toolkit to express your thoughts and feelings. So don't learn English like it's a boring checklist. Learn it like you're living a story, your story. When you do that, you open up a whole new world where language isn't just words, but a way to share your experiences, dreams, and emotions. One story contains countless words, countless structures, and countless feelings. All you have to do is let it come alive inside you. Shadowing with soul shadowing is not just about mindlessly repeating words like a parrot over and over without feeling. Shadowing is truly an art, a way for you to absorb the story, to live within every rhythm and emotion it carries. When you shadow, you don't just mimic sounds. You step into the speaker's world. You feel every emotional nuance, every pause, every emphasis, all carrying deeper meanings beyond the words themselves. It's this emotion that makes shadowing the most powerful and vibrant learning tool. Imagine listening to someone telling a story. You don't just hear the voice. You hear their soul, the joy, sadness, excitement, or worry in their tone. To shadow effectively, you must expand your senses to feel that invisible melody, the heart of the language. You don't simply imitate the sounds, you imitate the breath, the heartbeat, and the emotions hidden behind the words. When you practice shadowing with soul, you create a magical connection between your mouth, vocal cords, and brain. You don't just memorize vocabulary or grammar structures, you live with the language. English becomes natural and flowing like your breath, like a part of yourself. Your voice is no longer a stiff copy, but your true self, full of feeling and life. It feels like you're standing on a stage. You're not just reading a script. You are the storyteller, the actor, the inspirer. And this is how you build confidence and flexibility in communication. Language no longer feels like a cold wall, but a bridge leading you to genuine conversations, real emotions, and true human connections. Shadowing with soul helps you turn dry words into warm, intimate, and vivid stories. Remember, shadowing is not about quantity, but depth. Each time you practice, take the time to feel, to express the emotion in every sentence, every word. Don't fear mistakes or differences. Turn every shadowing session into your own performance, a moment to live inside that story, and the language will naturally come to you. When you start practicing shadowing with soul, you will see a miracle happen. English no longer feels foreign but becomes a part of you. You speak with your heart, and your listeners will feel it too. This is the real power of learning English, not knowing many words, but speaking with your whole heart. The power of personal meaning. Words on a page or sounds from a speaker can feel cold and distant, mere information without life. But when you connect a word to your own story, to your feelings, your memories, it becomes alive, unforgettable. This is the true power of personal meaning. It's not about rote memorization. It's about creating a deep emotional link between language and your own world. Think about the last time a word or phrase truly stuck with you. Was it when you just read it? Or was it when it reminded you of a moment, a feeling of joy, pain, excitement, or nostalgia? That connection made your brain hold on to that word tightly, making it almost impossible to forget. When you learn English this way, you don't just store vocabulary, you weave it into the fabric of your life. This is why stories, experiences, and emotions matter so much in language learning. When you attach a new word to a vivid picture in your mind, a personal challenge you overcame, or a dream you chase, that word becomes part of your identity. It gains weight and meaning. You don't just learn the word hope. You remember what hope felt like when you were waiting for a big change, a new chance. You don't just learn challenge. You live through it again in your mind, fueling your determination. By giving words personal meaning, you transform learning from a chore into a journey of self-discovery. Every word becomes a stepping stone on your path, not just an abstract symbol, but a piece of your life's puzzle. This connection turns passive knowledge into active power. So next time you meet a new word, don't just memorize it. Pause. Reflect. Ask yourself, how can I connect this to my life? What story, feeling, or memory can I attach to this word so it becomes mine? Write a sentence that speaks to your heart. Speak it out loud as if you are sharing a piece of yourself. The deeper the connection, the stronger the memory. This personal meaning will be your secret weapon, helping you retain vocabulary longer, use it more naturally, and feel more confident every time you speak. When your words come from your own life, your own soul, they carry power. This is how language becomes not just a skill, but a part of who you truly are. The mirror talks. Have you ever looked into a mirror and truly spoken to yourself? Not just with your eyes, but with your voice, your emotions, your whole being. This simple act, talking to your reflection, can unlock a profound power in your English learning journey. It's more than just practicing words. It's about building confidence, sharpening pronunciation, and training your mind to respond naturally. When you speak to a mirror, you create a safe, private stage where you are both the actor and the audience. There is no judgment here, no fear of mistakes or awkward silence. You can experiment freely with sounds, expressions, and body language, letting yourself become comfortable with your own voice. This comfort breeds confidence, the kind that shines through when you speak with others. Pronunciation improves because you can watch yourself, see how your mouth moves, how your lips shape each word, how your breath flows. Hearing yourself helps catch subtle mistakes you might miss otherwise. You can pause, repeat, and adjust until your voice sounds clearer, more natural, more like a native speaker. This kind of focused visual feedback is priceless. But perhaps the greatest gift from talking to the mirror is the training of your reflexes, the ability to respond instantly without overthinking. Real conversation is spontaneous and unpredictable. By practicing aloud regularly, you train your brain and tongue to work together faster. You learn to think in English, not translate from your native language. Over time, speaking becomes fluid, effortless, a natural flow. This technique also reconnects you with your emotions. When you express feelings, opinions, or stories to your reflection, you practice sharing your authentic self. Language stops being just a tool. It becomes your voice, your expression, your power. You learn to own your words, to feel their meaning deep inside. So start today. Stand before the mirror and speak your truth. Tell a story, share your dreams, argue a point, or just practice sentences you find difficult. Watch yourself. Listen deeply and keep going, because every word you say to that reflection brings you one step closer to speaking English with confidence and soul. Rewrite, don't translate. One of the biggest traps in learning English is the urge to translate, to take a sentence from your native language and convert it word for word into English. It feels natural because it's comfortable and familiar. But this habit quietly steals your voice and dims your ability to express yourself freely. Instead of speaking in English, you end up speaking through English, chained by the structure and limitations of your mother tongue. The secret to true fluency lies in rewriting, not translating. When you rewrite, you free your mind. You let your heart and soul speak directly in English, molding the language to carry your meaning, your feelings, your unique way of seeing the world. It's no longer about copying words, but about creating them anew, shaping your own story with your own words. Rewriting challenges you to think deeply about what you want to say, to find fresh ways to express familiar ideas. You learn to play with language, to experiment, to discover rhythms and expressions that resonate with you. This process transforms passive knowledge into active creation, and active creation into genuine mastery. When you rewrite, mistakes become stepping stones rather than walls. You learn from every attempt because the focus is on meaning and feeling, not on perfect translation. Your English becomes vibrant, alive, and truly yours, a language that breathes your personality and passion. So, when you study, don't rush to translate. Instead, pause, absorb the meaning. Then put your pen to paper and tell the story your own way, with your voice, your soul, and your heart. This is how English stops being foreign and starts being a part of you. Be the storyteller, not the memorizer. In the journey of learning English, so many learners fall into a common trap. They become obsessed with memorizing sentences, phrases, and vocabulary lists. They repeat words over and over, trying to engrave them into their memory like a machine storing data. But here's the hard truth. Language is not meant to be a cold set of memorized scripts. Language is alive. It breathes. It is a powerful tool to share your world, your feelings, your unique story. Imagine this. Instead of being a passive learner who tries to store language like a robot, what if you become the storyteller of your own life? What if every English sentence you say is a brushstroke painting the picture of your experiences, your dreams, and your emotions? Storytelling is what connects us as humans. It is what captivates, moves, and inspires others. When you tell a story, you don't just recite words. You bring those words to life with your heart and soul. Being a memorizer means you focus on repetition without real understanding. But being a storyteller means you actively engage with language. You make it yours. You reshape and remodel what you learn, bending it, twisting it, and adapting it to fit your personal voice. You don't fear making mistakes because every story you tell is a step closer to true fluency. Your language becomes flexible, natural, and full of personality. Think about the people you admire. Great speakers, writers, teachers. What makes them memorable isn't their perfect grammar or the size of their vocabulary. It's their ability to tell a story that touches hearts and sparks imaginations. When you tell your story in English, you are not just communicating. You are building bridges between cultures, sharing your perspective, and inviting others to walk in your shoes. So, stop trying to memorize every phrase like a script actor. Instead, practice telling your own stories. Share what you did today. Talk about your dreams, express your fears, or describe the beautiful moment you witnessed. The more you tell stories, the more confident you become, and the more natural your English will sound. Your words will carry meaning, emotion, and life. Remember, the goal of learning English is not to be perfect. It is to be understood and to connect. When you embrace the role of storyteller, you transform from a student into a creator. You turn your English learning journey into an adventure of self-expression and discovery. Your story matters. Your voice deserves to be heard. So, pick up your words, breathe life into them, and become the storyteller you were always meant to be. The emotion trick. When it comes to learning a language, there is one secret ingredient that can transform the way you remember vocabulary and expressions. Emotion. Our brains are wired to remember things that make us feel deeply. The words we connect with strong feelings, whether joy, surprise, frustration, or even sadness, stick in our minds like anchors in a stormy sea. This is the power of the emotion trick. Think about the last time you truly laughed out loud or felt your heart race with excitement. Chances are, the words spoken during that moment are etched vividly in your memory. Now imagine harnessing that emotional energy every time you learn a new English word or phrase. Instead of dry repetition, you create an experience, a story, a sensation, a vivid picture in your mind that makes the word come alive. Emotions give language meaning beyond just definitions. They breathe life into the cold, hard letters on a page. When you learn a word like freedom or hope, try to connect it with a personal memory or a dream that stirs your soul. Feel the emotion as you say it out loud. Let your voice carry the weight of that feeling. This emotional charge transforms simple vocabulary into powerful, unforgettable tools. Moreover, using emotion helps you break down mental barriers and fear. Speaking English can feel intimidating, especially when you're afraid of making mistakes. But when you speak with emotion, you forget about perfection and focus on expression. You tap into the universal language of feelings, which connects you with others far beyond grammar rules or pronunciation. So whenever you learn something new, don't just memorize. Feel it. Laugh with the word, cry with the phrase, get excited about the sentence. Make it personal. Make it real. The emotion trick is your secret weapon to remembering and using English naturally, confidently, and joyfully. In the end, language is not just words. It's a gateway to connection, understanding, and sharing our humanity. When you add emotion to your learning, you unlock that gateway and open your world wide. Create your own story. Learning English is not just about repeating someone else's words or copying a textbook. True mastery comes when you take what you've learned and transform it into your own story. This is the moment you stop being a learner and start becoming a creator. When you create your own story, you make the language truly yours. Imagine you've read a story or listened to a conversation in English. It's rich with vocabulary, expressions, and emotions, but it belongs to someone else. The real magic happens when you take that original story and rewrite it in your own voice, with your own experiences, your own feelings, and your own personality. Suddenly, those words stop being foreign. They become a part of your identity. Creating your own story means breaking free from the limits of textbooks and exercises. It means letting your imagination and heart guide your language use. You decide the characters, the setting, the emotions. You make the language come alive in a way that only you can. This act of personalizing transforms passive knowledge into active fluency. Moreover, crafting your own story builds confidence. When you tell a story that is uniquely yours, you own every word. You're not afraid to make mistakes because the story is about you. It's your journey, your voice. This confidence opens doors to real communication, to genuine connections with others. So don't just memorize or repeat. Take the raw material and weave it into a narrative that reflects who you are. Use your English to tell stories that matter to you, about your dreams, challenges, joys, and hopes. The more personal your story, the deeper your connection with the language will be. In the end, language is not just a tool. It's a living, breathing expression of your life. When you create your own story, you don't just learn English, you live it. The 30-day story loop. True fluency doesn't come from cramming hundreds of words or rushing through endless grammar exercises. It comes from deep, consistent immersion. And there's no better way to achieve that than by fully living with one story over time. The 30-day story loop is your secret weapon to mastering English in a natural, meaningful way. Here's the idea. Instead of jumping from one topic to another or memorizing disconnected sentences, you commit to one single story for a full 30 days. This story becomes your language playground, your daily companion. You read it, listen to it, speak it, and even rewrite it every day. Day by day, you build a deep relationship with the vocabulary, the sentence structures, and the emotions that this story carries. Why does this work? Because repetition with meaning creates lasting memory. Your brain craves familiarity paired with fresh perspective. Each time you revisit the story, you notice something new. Maybe a phrase you missed, a subtle emotion behind the words, or a connection to your own life. This constant engagement awakens your language skills and makes English feel less like a foreign subject and more like a part of who you are. The 30-day story loop isn't about perfection. It's about growth, curiosity, and connection. Some days you might struggle to pronounce a word or understand a phrase, but the key is to keep coming back, day after day, letting the story seep into your mind and heart. Over time, you'll find yourself recalling phrases naturally, speaking with confidence, and thinking in English without effort. This method transforms learning from a chore into an adventure. You're not just studying a language, you're entering a world, living a narrative, and shaping your own fluency story. By the end of the 30 days, the words won't just be memorized. They'll be yours. Your voice will carry the story in a way no one else can replicate. So, start with one story, dedicate yourself to the loop, and watch how your English blossoms, not in leaps and bounds, but in steady, confident waves. The 30-day story loop is more than a technique. It's a journey towards real, lasting fluency. Learning English is not a race to collect more vocabulary or grammar rules. Instead, it is a journey of turning what you already know into something you truly use and live with every day. Through the chapters I shared, you've seen that by focusing on familiar words, using stories as bridges, practicing with emotion and persistence, you can completely make English your own language. The greatest lesson you can take away today is this. Fluency doesn't come from learning more, but from reusing. Using what you already have, but in a deeper and more meaningful way. Remember, learning is not just to know, but to do. You have to turn knowledge into action, vocabulary into speech, stories into your own experience. And the final secret I want to emphasize. Be patient and persistent on your journey. Even when it's tough, always believe that every day you spend with English is a step closer to confidence and success. Don't fear making mistakes or speaking imperfectly, because it is from those mistakes that you grow. If you found this podcast helpful, don't forget to like and share so more people can discover it and improve together. And please subscribe to the channel so you won't miss valuable lessons on your English learning journey with me. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next episodes.